Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Moving Liberia Forward on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In this edition of Moving Liberia Forward, we're going to be looking at higher education. How can we improve higher education in order to move our country forward? Ever since government changed hands, we've been trying to suggest to the power that be on ways we can move the country forward. Today is our fourth edition of Moving the Country Forward, and we are talking about higher education. Let me introduce my co-host, who is also the education analyst here at Focus on Liberia, Mr. Sizi Goyah. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jai. Appreciate being here.
Thank you. Let me also welcome Dr. Edison Pajibo, a professorial research fellow joining us from Winneba, Ghana. Prof, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis. It took you a long time to get me over.
Yes, the time has come. Everything has time. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me also welcome Dr. George Williams. He works with the Virginia Public School System, and he's here with us as well to discuss how we can help our country move it forward by improving higher education. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a privilege to be here.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. And if you've not already know our mission is to create a more enlightened and informed Liberian society that attracts the world. Our vision is to be the most educative and informative media institution that fosters knowledge and curiosity about Liberia. Dr. Pajibo and Dr. William, this is your first time on Focus on Liberia. We are so happy to have you. I want to give you our ceremonial cola to say, if the cola nut can come out of this. Right.
Thank you.
I give you this ceremonial cola to say, welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Great. I want us to start by saying, by first defining and just showing our audience what higher education is. What is it? What are the characteristics? How do we know it? How can we identify? Is it from the building? Is it from the faculty? Is it from the courses? Is it what? So, but before we get there, I want you to take a few minutes to starting with Dr. Pajibo to just tell a little bit about yourself, what you do. And let me mention I first met Dr. Pajibo in Ghana in the refugee camp where he was at Legon. He used to love to eat book. And I was fortunate to sit under his tutelage at the IHED Institute where I was doing agriculture. He taught me education. Dr. Pajibo, welcome. And just a little bit about yourself, what you do currently.
Well, I'm a retired professor at the University of Education, Winneba. I retired this year, but I've had to come back to take a post-retirement contract. So right now, I'm doing my post-retirement contract, of course, which can be abrogated anytime. It's a 5-year contract. So that is what I'm doing. I'm still at the University of Education, Winneba, as a professorial research fellow, specifically at the Center for Educational Policy Studies.
And for others watching, or when you say professorial research fellow, what does that mean?
You see, we shall get into those things. When a university has moved through stages and then it wants to become a research university, in fact, I will give the history of universities and then talk about the various kinds of universities. One of the kinds of university that we have in the world today is the research university, the research-intensive university. And to have a research-intensive university, you must have research fellows of repute who are going to, move the institution forward so that it concentrates more on research, it concentrates more on postgraduate programs than on undergraduate programs. So those who make that to happen specifically are the research fellows. And if you are a research fellow, you start as a research fellow, senior research fellow, and then you end as a professorial research fellow when you become a professor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm educated already, more than I came on the show. Let me go to Dr. William. Doc, what you do?
Well, I'm a history teacher with Fairfax Public High School, Fairfax County Public Schools in Virginia. On the other hand, I am a founder of what's called Educational Development Innovations, which, among other things, is to help increase our capacity in terms of management and policy back on the continent, not just restricted to Liberia. And so over the period of the COVID, we started a policy forum, just like what you're doing, bringing together educators from across the Atlantic to just share thoughts on the impact of COVID and the strategies that were employed were being employed to overcome the challenges brought about by the pandemic. And I'll talk to you a little bit about where I am now in terms of my doctorate and postdoctoral engagements. But in a nutshell, I've been an educator from back home, came here for school and taught economics at Samiris High School in Douala from 93 to 2000, and then transitioned to the CWA Junior College and worked with my church, the United Methodist Church, transforming that institution into what is today the United Methodist University. I was the first dean of admissions, and then served as assistant dean of admissions for about 3 years before transitioning to other occupations that we can talk about. But as far as my educational background, I am an author of Liberia's first high school economics textbook, copy of which can be found, hopefully, at the Stella Maris. I am working on similar projects in social studies and economics and other areas of the education spectrum. But in a nutshell, that's where I am.
Thank you so much. I'm We are glad and very fortunate to have you. Let me switch it over to my man, my co-host, Mr. Sizi Goyah. Mr. Goyah, I always like for you to talk a little bit about yourself as well.
I already feel very fortunate to be amongst great educators. Dr. Williams, we share something in common. I graduated from the CW Junior College Program of Business in 1997 with an associate degree in bookkeeping. So when you mentioned that, I was smiling. So it's an honor. It's an honor to be in your presence. Well, my daytime job here, I am the director of math K-12 for the Minneapolis Public Schools. So I oversee 90 schools in the largest city, the third largest school district in the state. So I oversee everything from curriculum to teacher development, to training, to PDs, to budgeting, and the whole nine yards. Most recently, I was one of three co-chairs that rewrote the Minnesota State Standards for mathematics. So the standards that all schools have to follow, kindergarten through 12th grade. And I am a board member of the Minnesota Council of the Teachers of Mathematics, and I was their first African and first Black keynote speaker. Spoke to over 1,800 math teachers just most recently. That is what I do for a living in my pastime. And then of course I'm always on the show whenever I can to kind of provide some highlights. But I too was a teacher from back home. I taught at Bishop Mawia Institute before coming to the United States.
Thank you. Education suite, yeah. I too taught in the refugee school system in the forest region of Guinea from 91 to 95. And I taught high school math. And during my time, I was flattered as the best math teacher in West Africa. But let's get to it. Thank you all. We're so happy because you see, education, and we'll talk about that more. I mean, it's very key. So let's start by saying, what is higher education? How is it differentiated? What makes it higher education? What are the qualities? And Dr. Pajibo, even want to go through the history, but let me start with you, Dr. Williams.
Well, higher education, in a succinct way, is anything beyond the post-high school curriculum that's intended to increase and add value to what has been acquired from the secondary level. So whether it's in what you call a trade environment or an academically focused environment, anything beyond the post-secondary high school, a post-high school level that's intended to increase productivity in people can be regarded as higher education, leading all the way up to the doctorate and postdoctoral environments. Those will collectively can be regarded as higher education.
Thank you. Dr. Pajibo, what differentiates them, and where this whole thing come from?
Yes, you know, the last two sessions you had, the one on transport and the one on education, they were very, very informing. And you just nailed the nail on the head when you tell us that you want us to find out what higher education is. Because if you don't know what the thing is about, how can you establish it? How can you work with it? How can you be part of it? In sum, higher education is all forms of education, liberal, teacher education, in the humanities, for which the entry requirement generally is 18 years, and the degree sought for must be a degree above secondary education, a certificate above secondary education. Now, the distinctive features of higher education is that makes it different from other institutions is research. Is research. In many institutions, like high schools, we don't engage in research as we do in university, and research is not a requirement per se in those institutions. So the distinctive feature that distinguishes higher education from other institutions is research. So higher education has three core functions: teaching, research, and community service. These are not functions that are aligned to other institutions. So you have teaching, research, and community service. And what distinguishes one university from another university in terms of ranking is research. So research is key in distinguishing higher education from other institutions. I will go back into history. You see, in the past, before the Enlightenment, before the period of the Enlightenment, people were attending schools, Sunday schools. Retired church leaders were organizing classes, they call them DAM. Then Europe entered into a very bad period. We call that period the Dark Ages. When Europe entered into the Dark Ages, all that people had learned in the past about Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, the classicals, those things were buried because Europe has so many wars. The 100 Years' War, the 30 Years' War. So there was a dark period in Europe. So after that period, people decided to rediscover, relearn those things that Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle were teaching, but this time in a different form, not as Plato going to sit under the tutelage of Socrates, no, but rather a group of students in those days who hire somebody who is very knowledgeable to teach them about those classicals, to reawaken their minds about those things that Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle said in the past. So that was a period of enlightenment, and that was the birth of universities. And those universities in those days were concentrating on teaching. It was just teaching. Then some 50, 60 years after that, you have what you call the Humboldtian University. The first types of university were the Napoleonic types of university. They concentrated on teaching. Then later on, you had the Humboldtian types of universities that concentrated on research and academic freedom. After the Humboldtian University, then you have what you call the land-grant colleges in the United States. I think you will know more about that than myself. And those colleges were set up to support agriculture in the United States because the United States was a virgin country. So she needed a lot of technology. So state universities started as land-grant colleges, and today they have now become state universities. Beyond that, you have what you call the developmental universities. Liberia has not tested that yet. In Ghana, we have one or two developmental universities. Those types of universities are universities that you set up in a conflict area or in a challenging area or in a problem area. And they are there specifically to solve the problem of that area. So those were universities that were carrying out a lot of outreach programs. Besides the developmental university, then you have technical universities. We have also not done very well in that area. Technical universities are supposed to train high-level or middle-level manpower. They are not just there to produce knowledge, but technical knowledge. You see, Tottenham University started as a technical university, but that idea now has been defeated. Now, beyond the technical university, or another type of university that you have is the research university, a university that concentrates mostly on postgraduate studies. Next week, okay, let's say after the break, I'll be delivering a paper at the University of Education, Winneba, to tell the people what it takes to be a research university. So those are the different types of universities you have. So for an institution to be called a university, three core functions, and I have named them: teaching, the Napoleonic University, research, the Humboldtian University, and then you have, then we call the research university, the modern day research university, and the technical university. So that is what higher education is. So you don't just wake up early in the morning and start a college or a university. You must know what it meant in the past, and you must know what it is about. Universities are supposed to produce knowledge and disseminate knowledge through teaching, research, and community service. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, based on what you have stated and everybody else said, there should be a standard that you meet to be called a university.
Of course.
That takes us to Liberia, so that where we see a lot of, since the war, our universities have grown. When I was growing up in high school, we have University of Liberia, Cotton University College. These were the only two, and we have Todma. It was not a university yet. We used to say TC, Todma College.
Yeah.
Technical. But since the war now, it been so long. We talk about 30 years or 20 more years, so that makes sense. We have a lot. So let's talk about Liberia, the landscape of university. How we look at them? Let me start with Dr. Williams. How we look at the standard? Are they up to the standard that you know as university? Let's just evaluate. Let's just check and see, how is higher education in Liberia, if I will put it that way. How is it going?
Dennis, in all honesty, you don't need to look far to assess where we are in terms of standards. Just go back to the secondary level, and you see their high schools and elementary schools any and everywhere. There are absolutely very little standards that people have to meet to open up high schools and anything beyond the post-secondary level. And so it isn't surprising to see that Liberia, since, I would say in the last 20 years, there's a proliferation of buildings considered universities, which begs the question of, one, what curriculum are they using? Two, who's running these universities? Three, very importantly, who's teaching at these places? When I do a scan of our higher education landscape, there's so many universities that leaves you to wonder. You check the requirements for opening up a higher education institution, the National Commission on Higher Education requirements. It is so fluid. It is open to any and everybody, basically. It's a $250 requirement, and just about anybody, and I mean anybody who has a $250 can put together a curriculum, copy off the internet and paste it, can open up a university. So we have a very fluid environment, just like our borders, so fluid, it's unguarded, it's unprotected, and we have all of these institutions pouring out people considering themselves to be qualified to serve the state. And we continue to ask the question, where are these people from? What value is it adding to our society? How is it helping us, if not worsening our situation? Because those of us who have had the privilege of visiting other countries, even in West Africa and here abroad, we know that at every level, there has to be ways that higher institutions are accountable to the state. I am not sure that we do have in place procedures that ensure that these institutions that we grant certification or licenses to practice even meet accountability requirements on a normal. For example, who the collection of teachers? How many full-time and part-time teachers do you have? What is the ratio of your teacher-student requirement? What is the ratio of your full-time and part-time faculty like? What are their qualifications? There are lots. Talk about the infrastructure as well. There's a difference between a professional school and a university. You know, Doc made mention of several of them: technical, developmental. Those are universities. They're also what you call technical schools or professional schools. That's forms part. They're not universities, but they're form part of the higher education landscape. What standards do those institutions have to meet to be operational? There's very little on the books. And so we're grappling with what kinds of products are these institutions pouring out into society, but we've not worked to strengthen the foundation of that process, which is not just elaborating on the standards, but also finding ways to ensure that these institutions are accountable to the state. You know,
Thank you.
and so that's a major weakness because we're growing. We're growing. We hear the university is about to put out or commence a PhD program, which suggests to me they've assessed the efficacy of their graduate programs, and it's working well. But we've seen no report that suggests to us that those graduate programs and the products they're from are giving value to our society. You know? And so at what point are we going to step back and say, hey, we've run this program for the last, let's say 10 years, 20 years. Where are our graduates? How are they serving? What is society's perception of our graduates from our program? You know, even the undergraduate programs. When I was at UMU, not to monopolize the conversation, but when I was at UMU, one of the things we suggested to administration was a slow process of evolution. I agree, the University of Liberia has been around for a long while, since the 1960s. But in terms of its maturity, the university we're still in infancy. We're still in infancy, and that was exacerbated by the war. You know, that was exacerbated by the war. There are lots of things that need to go in before we can even get to the point where we're even considering graduate PhD programs. You know,
And we'll come to that.
And I'll leave it open
program.
for now.
Thank you. We'll come
Say
to
that
PhD.
again?
No, I say we'll come to that PhD program specifically because I have questions. Before I swing it to Sizi, let me ask Dr. Pajibo, what is the requirement level? I know you are not in Liberia, you could be more familiar with the one in Ghana, but to become a university, what is required? What do you need? It should be like a number of professors with PhD, with masters, with this. Should it be building? What is required? And then we can come. To. If anyone knows exactly what is required for Liberia, in Liberia to become a university, you can also let us know. Dr. Pajibo.
Yeah, yes, thank you. You see, in the past, the earliest universities, the certificate they issue were the certificate to teach other people. And those certificates, and before you get those certificates, you would have been in school for 6 years. And that is the equivalent of our PhD studies. Now, if you want to look at a university in its true sense, look at the word university. It's a universe, a smaller universe within a bigger universe. So, to be a true university, you must have internationalization. Other people, other scholars should be linked to your university. Your status in terms of foreign students is very, very important because in the past, there were people coming from all over, coming to Venice, coming to Florence to attend those universities. So for you to be a proper university, you must internationalize. In other words, you must have international faculty and international students. Now, there is something that is going on that try to define the various types of university in terms of their standing, and that is the ranking of the universities. If you look at our university in Liberia, the University of Liberia, which is sometimes sometimes the first, sometimes the second. The ranking is around 10,000 among a committee of universities. So what is happening? In other words, the nature of your staff, the work output of your faculty, how linked they are, the work output of your students, these are all things that count. And you don't just wake up and start a university. The entry behavior of the people who enter the university, in other words, the requirement for entering the university must be well sorted out. They must be well sorted out. Are those the types of people or the types of competence or qualification that they have elsewhere that are coming into your university? So there's a gamut regarding as to what a university should be. Entry behavior, ability to do research, internationalization, accountability, and Dr. Williams said something about accountability. And in university studies, we call that public confidence. How does the public see your students, your graduates? What are they saying about them out there? So you may have the structures, you may have the programs, but you are not fit to be a real university in the true sense if you fail in these directions. So I'll pause for now.
So Goyah.
Well, yeah. So I wanted to ask a follow-up question to Dr. Williams, and I'm hoping that the Dr. Pajibo can follow up on that. You spoke a lot, and one of the pieces I picked up as a theme was around quality.
Around what?
Quality of the quality.
Yeah, quality assurance.
Right. So Dr. Williams spoke a lot about that. What is the quality of the building, the quality of the educators, or the quality of the graduates, the products that they're putting out. Let's focus on Liberia, if you will, to the extent possible. Starting with Dr. Williams, and then I'll go to Dr. Pajibo on the same question. When you're looking at the landscape, I know one thing we know, you and I in the US and everybody else know, the proliferation of for-profit institutions have kind of seeped into the Liberian fabric right now. What do you see as a prescription for helping fix the quality issues? So I'm talking quality of the degrees that are offered, quality of the teachers, and the quality of the buildings, and quality of the products that come out. How do you see that? Because currently we look at the Liberian landscape, there is a plethora of for-profit institutions. They are modeling after the American system right now, where you have a lot of for-profit institutions. What do you say to that? What are some prescriptions you think that the Liberian higher education system can benefit from right now? Both you and Dr. Pajibo.
Let Dr. Williams start first.
Well, it's important. Thank you, Doc. It's important that when institutions are established, there is a primary focus on service and quality service. By that, we mean that in all that you do as an institution, you must recognize as an institution that you're accountable to the people you're serving. A lot of these nonprofits, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a nonprofit institution. How else are we investing resources, attracting private capital, if not for profit? But the motive cannot just be for the profit. We have to be serving our nation. And it behooves the licensing agent, which is the National Commission for Higher Education, to ensure that processes and policies are in place, mechanisms are in place to ensure that these institutions that we give license to, we have ways of monitoring what they do and how they do what they do. Now, there are many ways to belt the cat in terms of monitoring and ensuring accountability. There are many ways. As one who's worked in that environment before, I can come up with 10 different ways that Higher Education Commission can ensure. For example, Do these institutions even submit annual reports to the National Commission? Do they? And if they do, what's contained in those reports? You know, what milestones or benchmarks is the Higher Education Commission setting for those institutions to ensure that they bring in? Faculty qualification, that is critical. When you think, and we know how back in Liberia, I've been here 13 years, and I'm aware that prior to my arrival here, that many of the professors we had at the university were moonlighting between the few institutions that existed. Now you have Stella Maris next door, you got LU there, there's something called the Blue Crest somewhere on the old road, there's the Advantage somewhere across the Ralphie Highway, there's Cottington there as well. We knew there were professors from LU who moved through LU and Cottington, you know, especially on weekends. But when you think about how many universities we have currently existing, and by university, I mean universities and colleges, all right, are currently existing, it begs the question, who are the people teaching these places? Who are these people? And how are we ensuring that what they're teaching is what is needed, which I hope will become the next phase of this conversation? Because universities are supposed, Doc talked about community engagement and meeting community needs. Universities are supposed to ensure that they serve and meet the needs of the society they're in. They're supposed to be the transformational agent. We're not just to issue out certificates of learning. No. University is supposed to be there to help solve and identify solutions to society's problems. And if our universities are in position to doing that, they're not adding value to society. If a university cannot provide a solution, a simple solution to some of the more pressing problems we have in our society, that university or that higher education institution, it isn't adding value to society. And that's one way also of monitoring. What are you doing? All right. And so, yeah, there are many ways, there are mechanisms that can be put in place. A simple one is an annual report. An annual report that shows, that reflects student intake, areas of areas of instruction, quality of instructors, where are the graduates going? That's a second level to it. So the higher Commission on Education can't just be there like an armchair bureaucracy. It has to be an institution that's investing heavily in research, ensuring that they're monitoring what's going on, engaging society to find out what these institutions are serving, and how society is benefiting from it. Because accreditation is not shouldn't be a one-shot thing. It should be spread out in a way that over a period of time, there are regular renewals, and those renewals can be either accepted or renewed. But again, it boils down to what standards are we setting for these institutions to follow? Yeah, okay. The standards it's foundational, and once we have that in place, we're in the position to monitor and support these institutions to succeed. And we can only determine whether or not they're succeeding if we have standards or policies in place, programs in place that benchmarks that they need to meet. And when they're not meeting those benchmarks, we're then in the position to take remedial action.
So you start and for Liberia, do we know what standards are in place for higher education, or even what our higher education or National Commission for Higher Education, what is it that they are looking for to even accredit a university? Do we know? Because I see, I heard the name of one.
And it will be tough though, because there's so many fuse people, you know. And again, it has to do with, if you submit your request to establish an institute of higher learning, you're listing the colleges or the degrees that you're hoping to offer. And I think based on that, the commission will ask now for It now has a standards for what you have to meet, and then look at teachers' qualification. But I really wanted to hear from Dr. Pajibo on this issue of because in a way, Dr. William kind of talked around it, and I know Dr. Pajibo have been strong on this, is sustainable development, the how higher education can be aligned to programs that support the societal goals. You keep talking about this thing coming around it, even the both of you. So Dr. Pajibo, same question earlier, but if you would not mind just adding into there, what is the importance of actually having a university that has a sustainable development focus? Like the university.
Those who teach in universities are called professors. I think you know that. And to be called a professor, you must know what you are teaching. You must be competent in teaching what you are teaching. You must have that mastery of content. I'm a realist. Okay. When I went to Liberia at the invitation of the Ministry of Education to talk on higher education, I told them that, look, not every institution can be called a university. You see, we have layers. You have a college, which is doing its own thing. It is not offering any degree. When it grows to a certain level, it becomes a university college. When you become a university college, you are then affiliated to another university to look at your programs and to see what you are doing. It is that university, through the National Commission for Whatsoever Higher Education, that is now going to make sure that you have all your facilities and all your human resources in place to become a proper university. So we just jumpstart the gun, and then people are forming university. They didn't start with college, not all of them, of course, but some of them didn't start with being a college to being a university college, and they just went into full-blown universities. We don't do that. Then second, and I have stated it, the key core functions of a university are teaching, research, and community service. Let's come to research. The last time I visited the University of Liberia, there was not a single journal, a whole university. So who knows you out there as a scholar? Scholarship is part of university education. You must do research. So who know that I have 52 publications, and I've gone around 6 countries, including Liberia, professing. And I emphasize the word professing. What is in my area, that small area that I am in, education. So apart from the quality of the staff that must have that mastery of content, the facilities come in. And that's where you have the university being graded as a college, a university college, and a proper university. A proper or a complete university is chartered by whatever chartering institution, whether it is the National Commission on Higher Education or whatsoever. If you go to the University of Liberia, the number of people with PhD can be counted on your fingertip. But elsewhere in the world is moving. University of Education Winneba was founded in 1992. If you don't have a PhD, you cannot start. You cannot teach. Because they want in-depth knowledge from you coming to your students. And then with all that, you must have student evaluation of the faculty. So in many African universities, as we have them today, tenure is not automatic. In fact, every 4 years you sign a contract. You are evaluated by your students, you are evaluated by your faculty. Do we have these structures? Are people publishing? Who know them where? How are the infrastructure? Is it good? How is the library? Is it up to date? These are the things that make a university a university. The last time I ever heard was that they were saying some people never had doctorate degrees and they were heading university and so they should step down. I did not support that idea. I thought that these people should be trained because if you are at the National Commission for Higher Education and you have not organized any doctorate programs, where do you expect those people to get a doctorate degree from? You have to offer them. The universal standard for teaching in university is a PhD, period. How many of them do we have? Do we have TA state teaching in the University of Liberia? If so, why are we still behind? And you may look at it two ways. I think higher education has been politicized in Liberia. I don't want to go political, but I believe strongly that it has been politicized. When did we have our first master's degree program? In the 1980s, around 1988, when Doe started with the Regional Institute for
Salvador.
Yes. It started with the Regional Institute for, I think, Population Study or whatsoever.
Regional planning.
Regional planning. Because people didn't want for certain categories of people to have higher education at that level. They had to go and struggle abroad, either through some manipulated scholarship and all of those things. So higher education is a business. It's a business that deals with serious knowledge production and generation, and knowledge that is of quality. You see, when you are teaching, when I'm teaching in the classroom, I say, according to John 2020, according to Mary 2021, according to Pajibo 2022, you are quoting people. What about yourself? You are teaching a course. So scholarship is so important when it comes to university education. Do you have that depth of knowledge to stand before people to tell them what you are teaching them? Or you are just quoting others? The only Liberian journal I know about is the Liberian Study Journal. But that itself is not a university-based journal. So where are we? Our ranking tells everything. We are 10,000 among the committee of university. If I'm going to put it bluntly, we are a kind of a glorified secondary school. Highly glorified.
What?
So, Dr. Pajibo, 1 second. Let me, because this is getting interesting. Let me ask you. Let me play the devil's advocate here a little bit. And
play the devil's advocate.
And I'll give you a quick story, right? When I went to Liberia, one of my uncles was teaching at the University of Liberia. He had just graduated with a bachelor's degree. I think he minored math, but he was teaching math at the University of Liberia. And that year, I was doing my grad degree, doing grad study in math. And I was in my second year, and the only course that could allow me to teach at the university was remedial math. And so I go to LU, and this guy minor math. I'm getting a master's in math. And I said, my man, you're not qualified to teach this course. He told me about that. I just graduated and I got a minor. I said, but you're only teaching the thing you understood in your homework. The question you got wrong, you are not qualified to teach those because you have not expanded upon that. But he was still teaching that. But let me play the devil's advocate on this now. We are looking at access. The access to higher education. You spoke about that when you talk about President Doe opening the IBB and giving people access because, master's degree orders and the politicization of higher education. So one will argue that the reason we have this mushrooming of post-secondary education is because of access. Universal Library is always being in Monrovia, and if you don't have a lot of money, you can't go to Codington, and you had to travel far distance to go to TC back in the day. What do you say to folks, and what would be a prescription to take care of the issue of access and the politicization of higher education, yet keeping quality in it?
Yeah, when it comes to access, I think I was looking at some statistics. The total population for all universities in Liberia is not up to 50,000. And I'm talking about up to date. The University of Liberia is around 16,000. I'm not pleading for massification because massification also has its own setback. But do we need to congest the university? You see, right now, the teacher training college, the 3 teacher training colleges, they are not getting people because everybody wants university on their certificate. They don't want C certificate, B certificate. They want some, the caption of their certificate should come from with a university tag. So when I went to Monrovia, I told them, I said, look, you have 3 teacher training colleges. Amalgamate them and form them into one university, University of Education and Development Studies. If you want, I will come and help you develop the curriculum so that you decongest Monrovia or the University of Liberia. And then all those 3 teacher training colleges, those students who are in those colleges, when they graduate, whether it's a diploma they have, they know that they are carrying a university certificate and not a teacher training institute certificate. That's one way you can decongest the university and then come in with more people to enter the university. It shouldn't cost you much because you are taking the entire faculty from the teachers college, merging it with the 3 teacher training colleges to come up with a single university. And I suggested a name. It may not be the name that we may like, but it will help to decongest the university and then bring in more access. Every time school is about to open, there's always crashes in the University of Liberia. Why? That University of Liberia now should be thinking about becoming a research university where you have undergraduate programs and you leave the undergraduate programs to the teacher training colleges and Todman University and the community colleges that are coming forth. But because you don't have the staff, that has also become a problem. Politicization of higher education is true. That is my thinking. I may be wrong, but the University of Liberia was founded in 1862. When I was graduating from the University of Ghana in 2011, the University of Ghana was running 51 PhD programs. 51. You can think about what is happening now after 12 years. The University of Education, Winnipeg, was founded in 1992. Today, it is running about 30 PhD programs. We are not cursed. Something political must have been happening. So when I went to Liberia, one of the recommendations I made was that, look, why don't we allow LU to be where it is, turn it to a postgraduate school, and then let the other smaller colleges take care of the first degrees, and then we can have a lot of PhD programs running. And the way to do it is not scholarship. I argue strongly. The way to do it is not scholarship. Take faculty from here to Liberia and let them train a large number of people, everybody and his supervisor, and then we move on. You'll be training the greatest number for the greatest good. When you train about 100 PhD, as we suggested in our report, you would have staffed the community colleges, the other institutions, even the LUSA, you may have staffed it. But like I said, there is a suggestion I will be making at the end of this program for us to get to that, other than the way we are looking at the way they want to start a PhD program in Liberia, which, if we are not careful, it may not be recognized in the West African sub-region.
You're muted, Dennis.
We keep hinting to this PhD program, so let's talk about it. So the University of Liberia is being approved for 2 PhD programs, one in education and the other in public health. What's your take?
You have not directed your question to anybody, so who are
Dr.
you talking
Pajibo, Dr. Pajibo, you're already on the floor. And you started
all right. You see, I read about that, and one place they wish to draw their faculty from is from Nigeria. I don't believe in this business of drawing all your people from foreign universities. It's a good thing to do, even though it is late, given our years of existence. Right now, I'm part of a consortium, the Inter-University Conference for Doctoral Studies in West Africa. And that consortium is moving around West African countries, trying to help those countries to develop PhD programs. Some of those countries, Sierra Leone, Gambia, and some of those areas, Togo. As for Ghana, we have them plenty. So my idea is that LU shouldn't take it alone. If I say LU, I'm talking about the University of Liberia. That is how we call it.
Yeah.
What we can do is come up with a Liberian conference on doctoral studies. Draw those people who have doctorate degree in the various universities, and we all sit down and plan the blueprint and put down the blueprint for that doctoral study, so that the faculty is drawn from the various universities and then maybe from outside. When we do that, it is and the West African get to know the type of things that we are doing, that we are collaborating with them, it will serve us right. Because I tell you, on this other side of the world, our status is not well respected. And it is, and I continue to say one thing, we don't have our people writing. So nobody knows them. So if you start with a PhD program in Liberia, fine. With the assessors of those programs, would they be outsiders? For example, if somebody write a PhD thesis, will it be assessed by only people in the University of Liberia? Then what makes it international? What makes it a universe? So we can, I mean, this is something I think we should do. We shouldn't just, we should bring all Liberians together within our country who have doctorate degree, wherever they got it from. Let us put our minds together, form a conference, and the conference can then now navigate how we start PhD programs in the different universities. And not just University of Liberia, just because maybe government coming to change and all sorts of things are happening. So you want to rush people into a PhD program. PhD matter is not small matter. Thank you.
What does that mean? It's not small matter.
You need a lot of resources. You need libraries. You especially the faculty. You need a faculty that is reputed, that is internationally known. How can you append your signature to a thesis that you are supervised a thesis when you say you don't have a single article to your credit? How do you do that? Excuse me. How do you do that? So the faculty counts, the resources, the facility, the infrastructure count, and then the acceptability of that program counts.
Dr. Williams, because and let me admit,
I couldn't agree with you more, Doc.
Dr. Williams, let me report myself, because when I heard about the doctoral program at the university, I dismissed it. I kind of condemn it, and some people said, no, Dennis, you can say that. So I want to learn, and then I can recant my statement. Go ahead, sir.
No, I couldn't agree with Doc more. I don't think we've done enough work in terms of understanding where we are as an institution to warrant a transition now to a PhD program. That's not an undertaking you can do in isolation of a lot of other factors. Again, it goes back to the point we raised earlier. Has the university conducted an assessment of her current programs to assess and understand their effectiveness to the society? And with that information, using that to inform the need for a PhD program, what's informing this desire for a PhD program? Is it to say we have a PhD program or not? I mean, if we're going to undertake a PhD program in education, for example, given all of the challenges we have in our sector today, educational sector, how has the College of Education responded to those problems? What tangible output from the College of Education, because that's where the PhD program is going to be resident. Has the College of Education responded to some of the challenges we have? That was just pointing to the lack of knowledge. There's absolutely nothing coming out of the university to warrant all these progressions. You know, is it just for the aesthetics that, we are now offering PhD? Where's that going to take us? Where's that going to take the institution? And so I think it's premature. It's premature to even embark on a process like that. We can definitely, I can see the university, for example, the Kofi Annan Institute for Peace Studies has a sister relationship with a group in Ghana. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. That's a way to grow. We talk about regional partnerships. There's Forobe there. There are other institutions around, University of Legon. We can form partnerships faculty exchanges over time and work towards something like that being instituted. But to out of
maybe they did it, Doc.
the boardroom. Say that
I
again.
said maybe they did that. I said maybe they did that. We don't know.
Again, Doc just alluded to the fact that there's nothing coming out of the university that we've read. No journal, no publications from the professor, nothing. We heard about a little purse that was put together for faculty to write. That hasn't even gone 2 years already. And we're talking PhD. We're not being fair to the institution. We're not being fair to the people we're wanting to train. It is important that at every stage we reflect. We reflect on what it is we've done and how what we've done continue to contribute to nation building. And you can't build a nation without introspection from the very institutions that are charged with the responsibility of helping those institutions move forward. You know, there's nothing to read. There's nothing to look back upon.
Mr. Goyah, go ahead. Then we can shift to how we fix it.
Let me take my other hat off and wear the other one on this one. Because I when I heard about this thing, Dennis, I was in your position and I'm still in your position. I think they're bluffing in a common Liberian way. Because for me, I'm here thinking, when is the last action research project that was done by any student that graduated from the Teachers College that is being used to implement change in the Liberian educational sector? That now you think you're going to build something upon to go to a PhD level. And the other piece of that is, have they really done an inventory of their staff at the University of Liberia, the degrees of their staff at the University of Liberia? And when I'm talking about inventories, to check who has what and what is the credibility of what they have. Because some of them have come on a pressure recently of having degrees from university that are not accredited. So how are you going to be trying to teach an accredited program when your credential is not accredited? Look,
exactly.
We have to set this thing up intentionally. Otherwise, it becomes one of those things where people just pass around with a DR next to the name, and they make everybody else who's really scholarly struggle to get a DR. It becomes disrespectful. And look, just look at the University of Liberia, and this is by no means a swipe at any particular person, but look at the guy who has the university, has a divinity doctorate. This is a mockery of our educational system. It is a mockery of our educational system. So for me, I would say out here that they're bluffing. They should not be doing that. And the last time, we talk about research. The last time I was in Liberia, I lived next to, and real quick, a professor in the agricultural college. We're having discussions, and we're talking about research. And I said, when was the last time you did a research in agriculture? I said, the University of Liberia is right next to Jalatan, where you have a bunch of buka, and you have all the case meat in the same place. And the water green, not the water green, but the chicken green can cover there. When was the last time you did a research to find out how is that ecosystem working for all those species? Which one of them is an invasive species to the rest of them? Have you counted how many buka we have in that place and how often they are there, whether they are overpopulated for people to fish or whether they are underpopulated to stop people? Then he told me, he said, "You plenty have more." That was all he told me. But yet they live there. And mind you, this will be the same people that will be coming back tomorrow to ask us to get a PhD in agriculture when they have not done one research. So for me, I think they're bluffing. I think this is not right. I think if the university needs to tell us what is the need right now. What is this going to help with in education going to help with in Liberia when your university is not even offering yet a bachelor's degree in math? What is this going to help?
So you're pretty right. So you're pretty right. I think the university is jumping the gun.
Here's a question, Dr. William, before you come. I'm saying, we can say we are behind. There is premature at the same time to start. So let's encourage what they are doing. That's admittedly.
Well, Ahmed, you cannot encourage what is happening now when you haven't done. So Goyah used the word an inventory of what you've done previously and the benefits of what you've done to enable you move forward. You cannot. You're moving forward based on what? You know, the university suffered huge gaps over the period of the war. Because I know when we entered the university in the late 80s, it was pretty much a way better than when we left it. In all honesty, when we left, by the time we were out of there, 96, 98, things had gone bad. Professors had died. Some had traveled, disenchanted with the program, so they left. The university was left to TAs, several TAs. Those TAs have managed to get a master's degree. And some are there, some are working, some are here. Many of them are here. But in all fairness to the people on the ground, every time you hear about issues at the university, a major component of that is a division between the administration and the faculty regarding who's qualified to lead what and who's not. And so those are issues that ought to be investigated and addressed at the earliest. There are lots that the university has to address before even venturing to this newfound status of wanting to administer a PhD. Dr. Pajibo talked about the congestion at the university. Because the university is a public university, does not open the doors to ensuring that just about every quote-unquote high school graduate enters the university. When we entered the university, it was competitive to enter the university. That level of competitiveness has died out since we started to issue 2, 3, the third entrance exam and the fourth entrance exams, and everybody has now a chance. We're not saying that not everybody that should be barriers for entry. No, there should be access, but access should be competitive. Competitive so much so that when you enter, you know you're there to work. You're there to work. And so there's a lot to address. There's a lot the university administration can grapple with, or should be grappling with right now, rather than trying to expand her programs. Because those programs, first of all, aren't meeting national needs. And I focus on the College of Education. I focus on the College of Education. There's very little coming out of the college that's helping the system, other than giving certificates to people as graduates from the college. What other solutions are they putting forward in terms of the needs in the sector? How are those solutions made public? And how is the public consuming those solutions?
And I think just to answer, because my brother Saliv, I know you're doing his PhD.
Yeah, and he said, hey, I know what I'm talking about here.
I know he likes to be the devil's advocate, but I get where he's going, right? But the answer is, yes, we're behind. But to catch up, the solution is not to travel at breakneck speed. If I leave my house and other people left before me going to a party, and I'm late, the solution is not because I'm behind and I start to speed and kill myself. This is an academic suicide. That's what I'm going to call it. Because it's going to be a program that cannot be sustained. And it's just going to run, and it's going to be on paper, and it's not going to be benefiting to anybody. So I think what they have to do, like I said, is to take a holistic view, go back, do an inventory, look at the education program. What has come out of that? What research has come out of that? What has been the quality of the graduates that have come out of there? How have they helped the Liberian educational sector? And Dr. Pajibo was on here talking about, comparison analysis. If we're looking at the WASC our students are taking as the measure for obtaining academic standards in high school, how has the College of Education helped our rate of passing go up? If we don't address those things and we just add another layer on it, sadly, we're building the same castle. That's what we're doing.
Okay, let me read the one from Elaine Saba. We had her here last week. I say leave the PhD plan and do an evaluation of credentials of each professor or teacher. But all right, let's. I know Dr. Pajibo dropped up. 1 second. Dr. Pajibo spoke about the load shedding in Ghana. If that happens, she was going to lose power. So we don't have him. I want us to, for the last minute we have to, the last 20 minutes, we have to concentrate now on how we fix it. What do we do now, for higher education?
Dennis, I think higher education in Liberia, as much as the system itself, the sector holistically needs a reboot. We need a reboot. But higher education even more, because from my vantage point, higher education is a very viable vehicle for our national transformation. How those programs are reconceived, how they're re-engineered, can propel our society forward in a shorter than longer time. I think the whole idea of running to expand programming is only shooting the institution in the neck, because then you're diverting resources from critical areas to areas that are of very little need, and that's not sustainable. And so from my point, my vantage point is to say, put a hold. There's nothing wrong with having a license, but you don't need it now. Put a hold on programmatic expansion, but do an inventory, a review, an evaluation of the current programs. Mm-hmm. How are they meeting national goals? Align your programs and your curriculum to meet the national goals. It will serve the university even better than it's serving it now. It will serve the nation even better than the university is at the current period. For example, when was the last time we even reassessed basic curriculum, high school curriculum? When was the last time we did that in terms of our current situation? We have 20, 22, 23-year-olds who are still in 10th grade, 9th grade. How are we as a college of education or as a university sitting to assess those situations and saying to ourselves, there's a need for curriculum innovation? How are we doing that? We still have students going to school and learning something called vocabulary, when vocabulary cuts across content areas. So why are we wasting the time of our kids to go teaching them vocab when they can learn vocab in history, learn vocab in economics, learn vocab in English literature? Why are we wasting our time? There has to be a realistic review of the current setup back home. We have to be practical. Our country is in need. So much so that we need to reassess and reevaluate what we need and how we need it done. We got smart kids in Liberia. Those kids are smart, and you can tell when they yeah, we are. I'm a graduate of Liberia. Yeah. Midway into my undergraduate degree at LU, I found myself teaching at St. Mary's. All right, and those kids are still ecstatic about the experiences they had. Imagine if we're putting in quality people, if we're training people coming out of teachers' college, for example. Are we even giving an opportunity to go into classrooms and monitor what's going on in those classrooms? Come back and feed the program. When was the last time we evaluated a teacher training program, the College of Education's program? We got administrators. We're giving degrees in administration, but there's hardly any feedback in terms of assessing administrators in schools, in public schools. We have the data. The data is there, but we're doing very little in leveraging the data and the advantage of the data we have to informing our programs. And so that is not to monopolize the conversation. I think there is a lot we have in terms of resources and data that can help improve where we are instead of rushing to expand. I will call on my big brother, Dr. Nelson, to put a hold on the whole PhD program. Put a hold on it. We don't need it right now. There is not a rush for it. We need to first strengthen the position of the university, reposition the university to become a solution generator.
So, Dr. William, before you end it, I want to put something else, which is a way of improvement during the presidency of Madam Salif, started these community colleges in the counties. I really don't know how they're doing, but from what I hear from my county, Sino, I think since they started, maybe they have had graduation like twice, if not once, because they are not able to keep up, right? So they're breaking down, running, standing up there in other counties.
Dennis, first of all,
we are good now. Let's go to university. Let's offer degrees. So I don't know how. So how do we improve these things?
Dennis, first of all, to go to Sino, do you have roads going to Sino?
Who use this?
I am from Grand Cru. I heard about a community college in Grand Cru, and I laughed. They're looking for, let's improve and promote it to a university or a college. When was the last time you passed Riverside to go to Sino, Dennis?
No, don't
or anybody for that matter. How easy is it? We're talking access. We're talking access. You can barely get to Grand Cru. You barely have people graduating from high school in Grand Cru to finding schools, post-secondary high schools or post-secondary institutions in Grand Cru. How do you open a college in Grand Cru when the high school in Grand Cru, Barclayville, is understaffed and under-resourced? How are you, and so the vision has to be different. The vision has to be different. And the vision has to be devoid of this whole universitizing higher education to moving more towards professional education in those little enclaves we call counties. We have to change the vision to help our people. Because the whole concept of university, we don't have the standards, we've not met those standards, and we're doing very little in terms of good for our people.
Thank you. Professor Dr. Pajibo, you are back. Stanley said I'm a doctoral student, and the solution is not to be dismissive of the intent, but rather to help get the program to a level it should be. And I think it is possible if we can recruit librarian professionals that are well experienced in the process. This is where people like Dr. Pajibo comes in and other professionals. Dr. Pajibo, we're talking now about the solution. We don't have much time. We'll be closing soon. But how do we solve this problem? One issue I mentioned here is the community colleges that were started in those various counties. They were supposed to feed the university and address those, the access issue that Sizi Goyah talked about earlier. So how do we solve the problem? How do we improve higher education in Liberia so as to move the country forward? We're talking solution now.
Yes, I know we don't have time. Ahmed Seli asked me whether we have a regional body that accredited universities or doctoral programs. I never said it was a regional body that accredited, but it's a consortium. It's something starting, it's just like WAEC. You see, when I talk about the university, Liberia University Conference for Doctoral Studies, I was saying something that will make us to have confidence in our own doctoral programs. For example, assuming that University of Liberia starts something like that, and the people of Cottington or faculty from Cottington are not involved, from Tottenham University are not involved. I mean, anyone graduating from any of those universities with the doctor from the University of Liberia, they will not have faith and confidence in our program. So that was the angle from which I was coming from. It's a consortium. It is all about regional integration and then having confidence in the system that we are running as a sub-region. Now you're talking about what? What was your question?
How I'm talking solution now. How do we improve quality higher education in Liberia to move the country forward? How do we solve? How do we fix all the problems that we narrated today?
First of all, we need to have a vision, an integrated vision. We need to come together as a nation to put our heads together, because we are so latent. One person cannot do it. In the first place, the University of Liberia has done a tracer study of its graduates with regard to how they are faring out there before starting the doctoral program. Has it done a tracer study of its master degree programs, how well they are doing out there before starting a doctoral studies? Is the starting of the doctoral study in line with our ranking, our international ranking? Who is going to look at you? Who is going to listen to you when your ranking is so low and you want to start these types of high degree programs? So first step, we need to come together as a nation to do that. It is not compulsory within, people will say every university is autonomous, fine, but we can come together and draw our strength and then do the right thing so that within ourselves we have confidence in those doctoral programs, and then outside we can bring other people in to help us. So it is not a bad thing, but we need to be together to do it. And the University of Liberia will bring people who have ideas about these things. It is not wrong to bring people from outside to come and help.
Mr. Goyah.
Sure. So, I mean, I think real quick though, for me, my prescriptions would be, in addition to what the two doctors have said, is investment in infrastructure. You have to upgrade those facilities, upgrade libraries and laboratories, right? You cannot be providing, giving chemistry degrees and people who have not been in the laboratory to deal with those things, right? Curriculum enhancement has to be a thing we have to focus on. We also have to focus on faculty development. We can complain all day about these faculties not having the required degrees, but some of them have the degrees and they go and sit over there and they don't have professional studies. We don't give them professional developments. Dr. Williams knows here that when you teach in the system here, you do PDs that you get tired, right? You do these continuous professional developments. We have to do those. We have to invest in technology and technological integration, right? For me, access and inclusivity is a big thing. Public-private partnership. You create a program that serves a need. If we are going to be creating, say, for example, you're giving degrees in banking, are you partnering with banks so that your students are actually having hands-on experiences and that they have a place to go to get employed after they're done with studies, right? And I'm looking at government support. That is a given. But quality assurance, I think the both doctors have spoken about that immensely. That is a thing we have to look at. There is not a way you have a program if you can't evaluate a program to see how well it's doing or where there are gaps and how do we plug those gaps. So quality assurance is a big deal for me.
Yeah, and sorry, I think I have to come in again. If I was made president of the university today, not to take side, just to be neutral, I would have invited a visitation committee to that university to do what you call a risk analysis of the university, to see what is it that we lack, what is it that we want to be able to stand first and foremost as a university before moving into these higher qualifications. It's very, very important. What is the nation's assessment of the University of Liberia? What are people saying? So if I was made the president of that university today, I would stand by, bring a faculty of international review, and risk analysis, a risk assessment of the entire university, know what is lacking and how we can move forward, including the issue of bringing the PhD program in before we can even move anywhere.
Thank you. So how we address the issue of the other colleges and universities that we all think that some of these are not to standard, like community college in Grand Cru or these for-profit universities.
Look, a college is a college. A university is a university. A university,
Dennis,
college is a university college. First of all, why are we rushing to form community colleges? What is the state of secondary education in Liberia? The foundation is so important. So the same requirements needed for a college, a university college, or a university is the same requirement for a community college. Do we have those requirements in those community colleges in terms of the manpower and the infrastructure? And the community colleges themselves, are they serving the real purpose? Let me tell you something. You don't just set up a community college. If you set up a community college, for example, in Sino County, what would be the programs for that college? What is the industry that Sino has that college must meet? The need of industry. So people are just setting up. I don't know whether they all have the same curriculum. I've not even looked at their curriculum. But you don't just wake up and set up a community college. A community college is supposed to serve the needs of that particular community. So in Lima County, what is the economic activity there? Exactly. And then we set up a community college. In Sano County, what is the economic and social activity there? We set up a community college to meet the needs of that community. But this whole issue of community college just mushroom, and we are just looking at it just like that. No, we need to reevaluate them. We need to reassess them, look at their curriculum, and see whether they are meeting the needs of the community. What made them community colleges? The underlying word there is community. And the same qualification that apply for university apply to community college. You are in America, you Dennis, you know it.
I graduated from one. So we have a new president. If you were in the room with him concerning higher education, let me start with you, Dr. William. What will you tell him?
The hope is that President Goyah is going to put in at the ministry initially educators, education administrators who have the wherewithal to see the larger vision and spread that vision over the other institutions that they have over. At the university, we're hoping that, again, the university will see the need to reposition itself in terms of addressing the needs of the society it finds itself. But overall, my advice to the president is that at the level of the Ministry of Education and even the university, that he bring in educators with a vision, educators with experience who can drive and reposition the sector to making it more effective in terms of meeting the needs of our nation and our people, and not just bureaucrats who are coming in there to do the same thing we've done for them. The context is different. And because the context is different, a new breed of leaders are needed to transform and radically move our country forward, move the sector forward. And that will call for a lot of innovation. It will call for a lot of innovation. I think the education environment is way too fluid. Any and everybody has access. But yeah, it's to ensure that we put in the necessary safeguards and a vision that can drive the sector forward.
Thank you. Mr. Goyah.
Well, in addition to what both of the doctors have said, I think why it is the right of the president to appoint a minister of education, and sometimes it becomes a political position. I think it should be somebody who has a knowledge, a functional knowledge of education at a higher level to be in that position, and even at the Ministry of, at the University of Liberia. But I will hope that the president can focus, especially at our premier institution, the University of Liberia, that they ensure that, look, right now around the world, everybody is dealing into STEM education. And in elementary and secondary in Liberia, we're all pushing for STEM education. Of what use is it to have a huge STEM education push at kindergarten to 12th grade, but then they get to university, and there's nothing to support their passion. So we have to focus on bringing back math as a degree at the University of Liberia, and focusing on technology and integrating technology into all fields of study at the University of Liberia. So for me, I'm hoping and I'm waiting and I'm really praying that as we understand that the new world is run and is being built continuously on STEM education, and that as we are focusing on elementary kids and high school kids and getting them into STEM fields and thinking about STEM education, we cannot then just end the conversation right after they graduate high school and there's nowhere to go to focus on that. So I'm hoping the president-elect can bring back mathematics at the University of Liberia, focus on technology, and ensure that we are right now just stopping this whole proliferation of multiple institutions, do an inventory, see where we got gaps, plug those gaps, and continue to move forward. You're muted, Dennis.
Dr. Pajibo, I want to get your view. You are in the room with President-elect Joseph Goyah. What will you tell him concerning higher education?
Dennis,
Well, I would tell him, I would tell him that
we're talking about.
I would suggest to him that we need a complete reorientation of the higher education system. Bring the president on board, bring international faculty on board, bring faculty in Liberia on board, so that we can do a risk analysis of the institution of higher education in Liberia. The community colleges, the University of Liberia, the Tottenham University. We need to do a risk analysis. What is lacking? You see, public confidence is a very important thing in our university system. So if the University of Liberia president was sitting there, we would all talk about what is happening to undergraduate programs. How solid are they? How is the public perception about those programs? People talk, oh, people are graduating from the University of Liberia, they cannot write, they cannot do this. It is not everybody. But in research, we deal with generalities. We don't deal with exceptionalities. So the general view goes, how are our undergraduate faring? The few graduate programs that we have established, who are teaching those people? These are the things we need to be talking about, a complete risk analysis to find out what is happening and what needs to be done. The idea that you are assessing yourself, doing some introspection, doesn't mean that you are so weak. It means that you want to build on your what? Your weaknesses and improve upon your strength. So, I mean, if I was to be with the president in the room, that is what I would be suggesting, that we need a real conference on higher education.
Thank you.
It is not it's not a conference on the whole sector of education, no. Higher education, and then we bring people like my two brothers here who matter, we bring them in and we talk the issues.
Thank you. Thank you. Gentlemen, time is out. We will have part 2. Please be on the lookout for my invite so that we can continue the conversation, because it looks like we just scratched the surface. So thank you so much for your time. I will now get your parting comments. Anything that you want to address that we didn't touch, please, there's the time for you to say it. Let me start with my Sizi is wearing both hats, so I'll start with him. Both co-hosts and panelists.
It's been an honor of a lifetime sharing this platform with the learned Dr. Pajibo and my own brother now, Dr. Williams. I'm honored to share this platform with you. I learned from you all today, and I'm excited. I will hope one of the things that I didn't touch on, that we haven't touched on as being a thing for me, is for us to start looking at the data and looking at where the gap is in when we have a lot of students passing, graduating high school, and we're saying by law that they have met the standards of set forth by the Ministry of Education, yet a vast majority of those students will take LU entrance exam and fail. What is it that is being required, that is required knowledge in the LU exam, and is that required knowledge part of the state requirement for high school education? And if so, then somewhere, somehow, there is somebody the ball is being dropped somewhere, that because somehow the knowledge kids are getting from high school is not transitioning to college. And so I think that is a data point we need to focus on and see if indeed these schools are following the standards set forth by the Ministry of Education, or is the LU entrance not based on what is required to be learned in high school? I will hope that will be something we can look at someday.
Thank you. Dr. Williams, you're closing, sir.
Well, I just wanted to say that none of what we're talking about can be effectively carried out in the absence or the non-involvement of professionals in the diaspora. Part of my research was to see how we could bring diasporan educators together with those on the ground working together without having to relocate. All right. I think the president has already underscored the importance of diaspora engagement. I think those of us in the diaspora who are educators ought to seize the moment. Sizi, even Dr. Pajibo, seize the moment to begin to talk between and amongst ourselves in helping to proffer solutions that will help the sector back home. But yeah, thank you so much. It has been an enlightening conversation. It's nice to meet Dr. Pajibo. Sizi, pretty fantastic to meet you as well. I think a lot can happen. These conversations need to continue for us to get a lot more involved in what is going on at home. We can only do that if the more we talk, the more we learn from each other. So it has been a privilege. I'm always available. Anything education, I am on board with it. I think Liberia is still a virgin territory for educators, you know, and we can do a lot in the country and for the country. The sector is the bedrock of our social transformation, and you know, it requires professionals like ourselves to invest our time and our resources in helping to move it forward. And so thank you for the opportunity, Dennis. And to my fellow partners, thank you so much for the conversation.
Thank you. Just quickly, our friend, Professor Isaac Zawlo, he left from that same Virginia, and he's managing the MCSS. You don't have to answer, but what has been the coordination, right?
Well, I will stay, Dennis, I will stay out of politics, but I will say this much. Yes, indeed, Isaac Zawlo was in the Maryland area, in the DMV, and it has been a challenge actually engaging with him from the distance. Right. The hope was that we started something, and he was pretty pivotal in that regard. Right. Started something called the Association of Liberian Educators in the Americas, ALIA. Once he left, there were efforts by myself to pick it up and see if we could actually get it up and running. I was in the final leg of my studies, and so prematurely I had to put that aside and complete my process. But there is a need. There is a need.
Right. And he's very progressive. So
revamp or reawaken that vision.
What has happened? Because Isaac was always talking about, we were always talking about these things, but it looks like, and not to throw him under the bus, it looks like he's been, you know, handcuffed, hamstring somewhere, but who knows? Dr. Paje, we used to call him Paje.
Yeah.
Dr. Paje,
let's interpret it as, you know.
Yeah, let's leave it at that. Dr.
Yes,
Paje, you're closing.
Yes, my closing comment. You see, there are two words I always use when I'm describing the educational system. And those two words are impurities and impunities. It is true that we are talking about faculty, infrastructure, and all of that. But what about the administration? What about those who are leading the university since Rock of Ages? What has been their impact? Look, Dennis, if I'm the president of the University of Liberia and I sign a certificate that this person has met all requirements for graduation, and the person goes out there, the person cannot read, the person cannot write well, it is an indictment on my reputation. So I would never allow even such a thing to happen. So if every university president that goes before a board for interview, you come with your vision. I would suggest that apart from other things, all things being equal, if you come with your vision and all these things that you say you will do, at the end of your tenure, there should be an exit interview to find out whether those things that you have said, you have done them. We should hold public people accountable. Public servants, we should hold them accountable. What have they done to improve the institutions? So I would say, yes, you have come with your vision. I have come with my vision. There should be an exit interview. Exit interview. After you are at the time you are leaving the university as the CEO or the president, those things that you say you are going to do, have you done them? That will be the basis of the exit interview. If you have not done them, it should affect your pension, if there should be a pension. It should affect other allowances that you should get because you took an oath to do those things. We have to hold people responsible for what they do. You were in ahead when I was teaching there. And when I was teaching, people wanted to graduate, all sorts of people. And I said, no. Some people were prostrating themselves on the ground to graduate. And I held my grounds. In the University of Liberia, in those community colleges, if somebody is out there, we should come up with a rule. If somebody is out there who has graduated from the University of Liberia and is not up to the task, what is given that person in terms of the degree is an award. The person can be de-awarded. We can take the certificate from you. We need reforms in our country that will make people to be very, very serious. The idea that you graduated from the University of Liberia and you have a degree doesn't mean that you should just misbehave out there. You cannot do anything. You cannot improve upon yourself. That award can be withdrawn from you. Awards are withdrawn from people. Right. You are admitted in the award. You can be withdrawn from the award. We need to be very, very serious about what we do, and we need to unite as a people. Like my two brothers, who I really admire tonight, they spoke very well. I wish they could be in Liberia to help. I wish I could be in Liberia to help. We need a unifying force to get higher education moving. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Definitely be on the lookout. Thank you. Thanks to those who watch and even those who.
Sorry, my light went off.
Oh.
No shedding.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, yeah, you did. Again, thank you. We'll be having part 2 of this, and what I'm looking at is even to combine all the educators, and we have shown education as a whole, and just continue, because this needs to be a continual discussion, because education is key. Yeah. I mean, as somebody who was, born all the way beyond God's back, behind the house on plantain leaf, if I could leave from there, went to Monrovia, compete, and I think I'm doing well. So the kids back there are smart, very good, and it takes all of us what we can do to help. Again, thank you for coming. At this time, we'll close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good day, and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.